They must have waved me down over 5 times. I've been in private banks with less active security than this. Were they private banks that had recently had a shooting? No. And the comparison seems flawed. Armed guards in the halls, drones outside the windows, androids standing firm in the streets, triple spectrum scans at every entrance. They really rolled out the red carpet for you this time. If they were this concerned, why didn't they just move the trial outside of the city? The district attorney said as much, but the city council overrode them. The district attorney? You mean Miss Rockford? Miss Rockford's boss. Word of the attack yesterday is already trickling out. They can't afford to delay, or it'll look like they've been successfully intimidated. There's such a thing as overcompensating. Not on the stage of security theater. Were you able to look over the DNA analysis that Cyan has completed, Adonai? The report on the bindings? Yeah. Gave me a lot to think about on the ride over. You're looking much better. I don't feel better. They gave me some sort of injection last night. I woke up in much more pain, but they still insist on taking off all of my bandages. Some sort of injection? Sosuke consented to intravenous injection of a recovery accelerant at 9:33 p.m. last night. You consented without knowing what it was? I nodded. Thought it would help me sleep. An interrogation room floor isn't exactly ideal for rest. Spoiled brat. The same guy who was confidently telling me he was fine with going to jail? What about you, Adonai? Were you able to get any rest? I slept like a rock. Eventually. Didn't even wake up when a certain unwelcome guest stumbled out the door in the early morning, thank God. But it was an accelerant, huh? I thought there was something familiar about this discomfort. They gave it to us back in the military on occasion. You heal up faster, but it still takes the same toll overall. Explains why I feel like all my bruises are fresh. Why'd they wait until now to start giving Sosuke medical attention, though? Emma must have realized it was getting a bit silly, trying to accuse you of murdering 5 people when you looked like you had been thrown through a windshield. Don't worry, Sosuke. You're still handsome, even without the rugged edge that your injuries provided. Hearing that doesn't make me happy, you know. Why are you blushing? It's not like you're spotless. You still have a mark under your left eye. No, I've had that since birth. Oh. I was told once that it's charming. Why'd you bring it up? Is it not charming? So needy. Thank you for clarifying that for the court, detective. That was the same story he told me yesterday down in the lower wards. He and Reyes were the second on scene, so they focused on clearing the lower floors before meeting with Rogers. Good to have it on the record so I can look it over. As for the next item on the docket, calling the defendant to testify, seems like it's going to be a nothing burger. Not entirely, Your Honor. My client waives his right to decline. Does he now? Sosuke Ikaria. I'm a head of personnel security at the Ikaria Financial Group. And the IFG, that's a family-run small business mom-and-pop corporation, I take it? Family-run. Well, Mr. Akari, I feel like the court already has a strong understanding of the circumstances you found yourself in. How you were captured and tortured by these 4 known criminal associates, all of whom are now dead. How you were found standing over the body of Officer Chopin. I suppose all anyone can ask is, what do you have to say for yourself? I can only tell you what I remember, even if that's mostly pain. How about after the pain? How did it end? I woke up to the feeling of my blood drying on my skin. Familiar sensation for a head of personnel security, I assume? Objection. I can answer. It was a novel experience. I pulled off my blindfold and felt like I'd stepped into the desert. Light flaring in my eyes, heart thumping in my temple. But I realized there's a gun in my waistband. The indicator showed it was spent. Didn't know what to make of it. Does this gun look familiar to you, Mr. Akaria? Yes, that's the same gun. Let the record show that the witness has admitted to wielding the same Mag-US used to kill 2 of the victims. Is this okay? I stumbled forward towards a door, and past it the whole room seemed red. And after that, you don't remember. Anything else you'd like to say to the court, Mr. Akaria, before we finish? There is one more thing I recall. I remember holding my sword. So he admits it? You remember holding your sword. Woof, that ain't good. That's very interesting of you to say, Mr. Akaria. It was on the ground, and it's important to me, so I bent over and picked it up. Do you recall the next thing you did with that sword, Mr. Akaria? No. The next thing I know, I'm being transported and read my rights. I see. Your Honor, do you feel we need to continue? The questioning? The trial. Ouch! Ready to begin cross-examination at any time, Your Honor. If you insist. Round 1. Fight! Surely we're past round 1 by now. I woke up in that room blindfolded and in pain. Managed to untie my bindings and stumble forward. That's when I noticed the gun sticking out of my waistband. I was alarmed, but the ammo was already spent. When I stepped through the door, everything on the other side was red. All I could think to do was bend down to pick Yoru up off the floor. The next thing I know, I was in an ambulance, having my rights read to me. Sosuke isn't lying about anything, is he? No, he's just subconsciously glossing over a certain key detail. All the trial prep in the world can't undo multiple concussions, I suppose. Sosuke couldn't have untied his way out of his bindings, not when they were very clearly cut by something sharp. Objecting to a statement from your own client now? What do you mean, Morgan? These pieces of cloth were recovered from the room where you were held, Sosuke, and they've very clearly been cut. You didn't struggle your way out, you cut your way out. Yes, now that you mention it, that's right. But if I got myself out first... Your Honor, the people ask that the defense do their testimony coaching before the trial begins from now on. As it stands, this has been a colossal waste of time. Yeah, I mean, this detail probably isn't important, right? It's very important, Your Honor. If he used a blade to cut himself free from his bindings, that means Sosuke couldn't have gotten free until someone handed him a blade. Meaning that the people's theory of a daring escape mid-interrogation is doing just fine, thank you for asking. None of us in the court here today seriously believe this man or his memory can be taken as the truth. Then forget him and just look at the bindings. They're hard physical evidence, and they had to have been cut by something sharp. What do we know that fits that description? You think it was Yoru? His captors kept him bound in that room most of the night, then cut him from his bindings with the sword and bring him into the main room for questioning, where he turned the tables on them before slaughtering them all. Badass! Well, counselor, are we done here? Could the katana have been used to cut those bindings? Looking at the actual bindings themselves. Of course it wasn't the sword that cut those bindings. What do you mean? The problem lies with the DNA. Your Honor, if we could please draw the court's attention to the forensic analysis of the bindings, you'll notice your client's blood, obviously. Yes, obviously. But upon closer inspection, you'll also see that blood from Miller was found as well. The poncho guy? Who was stabbed in the throat, as the court may recall, by your client's sword, as is no doubt still fresh in the jury's memory. Well, how can that be, Your Honor? What do you mean? Is it not sharp enough? What a piece of... How could Miller's blood have ended up on the bindings that kept my client from leaving the room in which he was held? Unless Miller was killed before my client was ever cut free. That's kind of a big deal, isn't it? I thought so, at least. He's lying. It's not possible. You thought wrong, counselor. It's true that the katana has blood from Miller's stabbing on it, and I'll admit that it's surprising to see his blood on your client's bindings. Miller's autopsy shows he had no wounds besides the fatal puncture in his neck. So the bindings on my client had to have been intact at the time Miller died. Those bindings didn't need to be cut before your client could kill him. What? If your client's wrists were left bound for questioning, he could have stolen the gun, killed Tanks and Creek, then picked up his sword, as he just stated in his testimony, and set to work. Do you think my client was drugged and beaten before killing 4 men with his wrists bound? Hardly impossible for a man with his talents. And there's no other explanation for why he would have cut his bindings with a sword that, as you insist, must have already been used to kill Miller. No other explanation? Not even if he used something else to break out of confinement? What if my client had simply used this to break out? What the hell is that? Way overcooked from what I can tell. It's a murder weapon, Your Honor. One recovered from the scene of the crime. A knife. Yes, that's what I grasped when I first woke up. That's impossible. What she said. There's nothing about a knife found seared to perfection in the ARC's data. Is it overcooked or seared to perfection? This knife was not found inside the building, Your Honor. I retrieved it from the alley immediately beside it. Your android did? Need her to submit video evidence of the entire afternoon to verify it? Doubting Thomas? It's not the android. I'd have trouble taking at her word, counselor. What forensics have been performed on it? There are no fingerprints remaining, and the DNA present in the blood is too damaged to be of use. But I have identified at least 2 different blood typings. AB negative and B negative, Your Honor. Your Honor, the people are, of course, interested in forensic analysis of any evidence that seems pertinent to the crime at hand. But this was retrieved from an alleyway dumpster. A soot-filled drum near an alleyway dumpster. From an alley in the lower wards. Without strong evidence linking it to the crime, I see no reason to entertain the idea that this is some kind of 4th murder weapon. 3rd murder weapon. What? But that was post-mortem. The point still stands. Well, how about it, Morgie? Any link between this totally not suspicious fireball knife and our crime? Or should we just throw it back in the garbage? Again, it was a soot-filled drum by the garbage. Of course I have more to go on than mere proximity, Your Honor. I have proof right here that this knife was what Sosuke used to cut himself free. take another look at that. Your client's medical intake record? A little late to still be drawing up sympathy, but if there are shirtless photos in the file, I suppose I have a duty. There are. What? I did not remove my shirt for... If I may please direct the court's attention to one specific item. Slight laceration found on left hand. What do you mean slight? Like a paper cut? Or like a cutting board accident? Neither paints a very gallant picture. But if he had a cut on his finger when he was first arrested, then it must have been sustained around the time of his escape. Like when he was using a knife to cut himself out of bindings while blindfolded. Yeah, that makes sense. And a master swordsman can nick himself on his blade every now and then. His katana was found with a lot of blood on it, yes, but none of his own. Adonai is correct. Yoru was thoroughly tested, and found to have blood residue matching Miller, Trey, and Officer Chopin, but not one drop of Sosuke's. Meanwhile, we have a knife right here, ready to be submitted as evidence and studied under every microscope the state can find, that just so happens to have Sosuke's exact blood type on the tip. AB negative, that blood type. Doesn't match anyone in this case's full file except for Sosuke. What? I do blood type fortune telling. So I have a hobby. Shoot me! 2 shots, right to the base of my skull. Counselor Morgan, perhaps you might grace us all with your formal request. I call for this knife to be submitted into the record and forensically analyzed as quickly and thoroughly as possible, because I believe it is the murder weapon that actually ended Miller's life. A knife to the neck would be much easier to pull off than using the very tip of a sword. I'd, hypothesize. Nice recovery. Perfect ukemi. In other words, then, you're asking for the medical examiner to reevaluate whether this knife might be a better fit for the wound in Miller's neck? Yeah. Did you just repeat what she said, but slightly rephrased? Conversational tactic to surpass metal It's worth repeating, Your Honor, because the people understand the full weight of what this knife implies. You can overturn this entire case in an instant, depending on what Sato finds. Emma's repeating what I said because she's stunned. I just flashed her my hand, and it was 1 card away from a full house. People have no objections, Your Honor. This trial requires that you be fully examine this new piece of evidence. Cool. So does someone have her number? Is there a group chat room for everyone who works for the government, or... Dr. Sato is already on her way. So there is a group chat, and I'm not in it. She'll begin the examination as soon as she arrives. Guess we just slack off until she's done, then. It occurs to me, Your Honor, that we ought to thoroughly examine why this possibly critical piece of evidence was not found during the police investigation. The investigation and preservation of this crime scene was a joint effort between police and science security. Then perhaps our next witness can shine a light on the source of this deficiency. Adelaide Hahn, Site Manager at Sinus Security. I served as supervisor for the scene of the crime in case 356319B. Wow, can I call you lady? Nah, babe, but what should I call you, though? Well, you can keep calling me babe, or you're just the adjutant, Your Honor. Awfully cold name for such a hot... Why the hell wasn't this knife found sooner? Well, I hate to throw a business partner under the bus, but we at Science Security maintain the perimeters and stand watch over secured scenes. It's the cops who do the searching and flagging. You'd have to ask them why they didn't go dumpster diving. It was a drum. The police aren't your business partners, though, are they? I don't understand the question, Your Highness. Science Security is a cell corporation owned by FIC Holdings, an offshore rebranding and effective pseudonym for Came Acquisitions, aka the heart of the criminal organization operating in the lower wards that is commonly referred to as the Blue Blood Mafia. If you say so. Sounds like it's above my pay grade. Permission to treat the witnesses hostile. Can I get popcorn first? Do you know why the state cooperates with the Blue Bloods to this degree? Why you're allowed to run your businesses and manage your petty fiefdoms. Petty fiefdoms. How about this? It's a free country and we're loyal, capitalist, tax-paying entrepreneurs. You got your own explanation? It's because you're insignificant. Neither you nor your organization are on trial here today. That's not a favor, and it's not a show of respect. It's just reality. The slate is slow to shift its priorities. You aren't the focus of this investigation. But if you impede this trial's progress by dodging questions and playing stupid, you'll find that the state shifts its attention to your neck very fast. You got questions for me then? Why wasn't the alley searched? Because the police found all the murder weapons within minutes. No rational person walked into that bloodbath and thought, gee, I wonder if there's a knife buried under a pile of ash in the alley downstairs. Your witness, counselor. My turn. If my hunch is right, it'll be critical that I gather as much information as possible at the scene of the crime, and the ways in which it changed after I left. When did Science Security first arrive on the premises, ma'am? Midnight. About 2 hours after my client was arrested. You're sure? Checked my messages and saw the time right on my phone when we got there. You were there yourself. Trouble with being a site supervisor, you've got to stay on site. Not an absent parked cars. On, let's flip a few details with the building's setup when we first met. Time to get it all out on the record. Do you know who owns the building that these crimes took place in? I don't. Do you know who installed the security features on location? It was Science. Must have gotten hired by someone. Not my department. But you recognize some of the handiwork. The front door was Science. The individual vault room locks too. That front door was locked when officers arrived. They had to shoot it open. Shouldn't your security system recognize officers of the law? Our doors use physical locks. A lot of folks in the lower wards don't trust a fob scanner that can be hacked. Physical locks can be bypassed too. Sure, but at least that takes time. That knife was found in the alley only yesterday. Even the police should have searched there. Yep, seems like not everyone did their job. Did you do yours? Was the alley monitored around the clock? It was. Any disturbances to the scene of the alley? No, none. It was a warm night, I'll bet. You asking me about the weather? Not exactly grade A small talk. Relevance, Your Honor? I was trying to be polite, but if you insist. Were the windows open in the building when you arrived? There was a lot of windows. Not sure. The crime scene and the room directly below it. Were there windows open? Yes, those windows were open when Science arrived. Strange, didn't it rain that night? That drizzle was over before 9 p.m. And you knew it had been a downpour, it's not a crime to risk getting your windowsills wet. Alright, so the building wasn't completely sealed by the time you got there. Why was the building made soundproof? Dunno. I'm not a building inspector, and I got the impression this wasn't a place that cared about certifications. You oversaw the site for days, and yet you can't tell the court. The witness has already answered, Your Honor. Witness knows when to stop talking. At least I'm no worse off for having asked. Is there any way to unlock that front door without its key? I mean, you could use a spare, right? Is there any way to lock that front door without its key? Yeah, but the technique's real complicated. You walk out and let it shut behind you. That door is designed to lock behind you automatically. It's a selling point for a building designed to be secure. Thank you. That was a very enlightening conversation. But it raises just one question. Whoever could have gotten inside the building before Chopin and Rogers? The hell are you talking about? Your Honor, perhaps Counselor Morgan might narrow down her absurd attention-grabbing claim first, so that the people can properly eviscerate it. Yeah, what she said! Someone got into the building before Chopin and Rogers did. That's become obvious. What are you talking about? The only way into that building was through the front door. Chopin had to shoot it down. Are you suggesting that he didn't even try turning the handle first? No, the door was definitely locked when those two arrived. This witness had testified that the door is designed to lock itself automatically, so it's impossible for the door to have been left unlocked. As you say, but in that case, we know that the front door was locked all night, and we know that the master key was found in Crete's body on the 3rd floor. Then, where do I even... What the hell are you trying to say, anyway? Just that they used a spare key. Oh, a spare key. How convenient. But completely unfounded. The witness just testified that a spare key is the only other way in. But there's no proof that a spare key even exists. Probably not, no. Probably? So how about I show the courtroom where it was hidden instead? The dumpster? What is your obsession with presenting evidence found in the garbage? I'm going to ignore that comment. And besides, there wasn't a spare key in the dumpster. It must have been underneath it. What? Is that true? Hey, don't look at me. I have no idea what she's talking about. That dumpster has clearly been moved, as indicated by the markings left behind from dirty rain in the lower wards. We can all see those marks, Counselor, but it could have been moved at any point after the last time it rained down there. The witness just testified that the last time it rained was 9 p.m. on the night of the murder. So what? Your claims that a spare key to the front door was left underneath the dumpster? Not so dissimilar from leaving the spare key under a potted plant, or a setting stone, or a biwa statue. This isn't anything like either of those examples. That dumpster is massive, and its wheels are long gone. Correct. So if anyone had moved it after police had arrived, the cops definitely would have heard it. If it was moved after the rain stopped and before Chopin and Rogers got there, that narrows it down to sometime between 9 and 10 p.m. And, of course, someone would only bother to move a dumpster that heavy if they knew what they'd find underneath it. Someone like... It had to be Hahn, of course. Counselor? As a known associate of the Blue Blood Mafia and an employee of the security company who installed the front door at the crime scene, she'd have known exactly where to find a spare key. That dumpster also happens to be incredibly heavy, but I don't believe this witness's mod documentation has been submitted to the court. Could you estimate for us your approximate lifting strength? You lift with your back, not your arms, lady. Pushing strength, then. Me? I couldn't push over a flower. Fact is, you're just bullshitting. There's no proof for any of what you've said. We could check for your fingerprints on the front door. You'll find them because I've used it plenty of times. It's my job. We could check for your fingerprints on the dumpster. That thing's filthy. You'd get nothing but partials from a bunch of unlisted, and addicts, and whoever else stumbling around that alley. Would we? Dunno. But after you do, I might just recall how I nearly puked when I saw that crime scene, and how I might have stepped out into that alley to catch my breath. Would you believe I rested my hands on that dumpster then? This line of questioning is unproductive, Your Honor. Counselor Morgan cannot substantiate her theory because the fact is, there's nothing strange about Han's prints being on any centimeter of that building. Not when she spent nearly 2 full days patrolling it. True, fingerprints won't be enough. I need something more impactful. And I've got just the thing. What? Han was there that night. She was there before the police ever were, and she was there long before scientists showed up at midnight. And I can prove it right now. How? Exactly. What? I'm going to prove how she got there before the police did. What the hell was that? Adonai, did you really have to do that again? What is happening right now? This is a simple whistle. Every time I press it, every ad in the courtroom picks up a rather nasty frequency, as does any phone with the proper receiver app installed. So, should the witness be excused so she can answer her phone, Your Honor? You brought that shit into the courtroom? Where exactly was this whistle found? At the scene of the crime, of course. Near where Creek's body lay. Police must have disregarded it as a keychain or toy. Didn't anyone ever teach them that when you find a button, you should press it? It's the exact opposite of what you should do at a crime scene. Yesterday, Dr. Sauter testified that Creek was alive for several minutes after being shot. If he pressed this whistle even once in that time, the witness's phone would have started getting alerts. As I've demonstrated to the court just now. Anything to say for yourself, Miss Han? Did someone install the app on your phone as a prank? Its reception has limited range. The lower wards is a tight-knit, high-density community. How far could you have been? Far. I wasn't in the area that night. Doesn't matter what range she was at, Your Honor. The defense claims that Han entered the building with some kind of spare key, letting the front door lock behind her to block Chopin and Rogers. But those two officers did enter after they shot the lock. At which point they didn't run into the witness. Creek was shot at around 9:45 p.m. Considering the time it would have taken Han to arrive and retrieve the spare key, she would have only been a few steps ahead of Chopin and Rogers. After coming so far with your brilliant spare key deduction, are you now going to claim that she simply ran away? No, at that point she would have had to hide. Since they didn't see her, logically, we must conclude that she hid in one of the rooms on that floor. That is logical, but it's also entirely conjecture. Not this time. Detective London's testimony established the possibility. Remember what the good Detective London testified earlier? Rogers had already apprehended the suspects, so we focused on securing the area. Sunshine and all had cleared the first floor. All the rooms were empty, but one was unlocked. Can you teach me how to speak brackets out loud later? 2 police detectives have sworn that one vault on the first floor was found unlocked. Unlocked perhaps by a spare master key. Is that some kind of big deal? Your Honor, what Counselor Morgan is proposing would put the witness behind Officers Chopin and Rogers as they proceeded upstairs. Not a bad place to be, if you want to do some backstabbing. You've got to be shitting me. That's some creative geometry you're employing, Counselor. Imagining the witness as somehow getting positioned behind Tariq Chopin, yet somehow remaining invisible to the eyes of Officer Rogers. That's non-Euclidean crime scene recreation. Very novel. Her insult sounded really smart, so I'm inclined to agree. I thought I had something, but when I tried to put the cards on the table, how could Han have gotten behind Chopin on the 3rd floor? Was Rogers distracted at the window, maybe? Or... Wrong question. I'm getting ahead of myself, trying to work backwards at this point. I shouldn't ask what Han could have done to get in a position where she was able to kill Chopin. I should first ask what Han would have done to serve her own interests. Your Honor, there is some testimony I'd like the court to hear once more. If you could access the stenography protocol. The what protocol? Was I supposed to be taking minutes for this meeting? I can recall any testimony you want to review, Adonai. If Han won't self-incriminate, then the only testimony that could give me a clue as to her actions would be... recite Rogers' testimony from yesterday. Start from after they entered the building. What are you fishing for? We heard a loud slam. Chopin gets all deadly serious and insists I stay, and he goes ahead. That's it. The sound Rogers heard from the alley, the one that made Chopin want to more events, sir. That must have been when Han... The sound the officers heard was that of someone fleeing the scene. Out the window, down the fire escape, and onto the dumpster. It's a bit of a drop. Even a dainty suspect would make quite the racket using the dumpster lid to break their fall. Your Honor, if we have to entertain this sort of conjecture, might we at least ask for proof that it ends somewhere impactful? I hear you. Counselor Morgan, take this one seriously. You're telling me that? What exactly are you accusing this witness of? Are you prepared to accuse Han of having murdered Tariq Chopin? My theory is right that it was the sound of Han fleeing the scene that caused cops to split up. In other words, at the time she left, Chopin was still alive. No, she's been uncooperative and has lied on this witness stand, but she didn't kill anyone. Woof, that was anticlimactic. I mean, perjury? Who even cares? Perhaps now, Your Honor, the court can get back on track and bring this witness's testimony to a close. And considering the fact that she may very well have perjured herself, I think it might be a better use of the court's time if we cleared the room for the remainder of this witness's testimony. No objections, Your Honor. Okie dokie! Bailiffs, clear the gallery and remove the defendant to a holding room. Forcing us out? What the hell? Hey, tag along, would you? With Sosuke? Can't let someone with a concussion fall asleep, right? I'm certainly not still concussed at this point. See, he's delirious. Trust me. Very well, Adonai. Good luck. Play some teas out faster than I thought. No gallery, no jury light feed, no bells and whistles. You just give your testimony to the defense, the people, and moi. And when you're done, I get to watch them argue over whether or not I should add it to the record. So, you think I got something contentious to say? Sorry, but it's just gonna be more of the cold shoulder. What I think is that you're scared. The hell? Of what? Who? You? An audience? What, pigs? You think I give a shit what any of them thinks, says, does? Even if any one of them might leak what you say back to the old guard? What's an old guard? A ruling faction among the Blue Bloods, who use young bloods like this witness as their cannon fodder. Where'd you learn all that? You binge a late dine special? Knowing Emma, she just learned all this from... Matter of fact, I did. Old guard knows where my loyalties lie. I'm no snitch. So now there's someone to snitch on. I don't help state prosecutors, and I definitely don't help Ikarian lawyers. The court's already emptied out. We can sit here in silence if you like. 15 minutes of nothing, and then you walk out. But when you do, someone's gonna make assumptions about what went on in here. Telling me I'm screwed if I do, screwed if I don't, ain't exactly got me feeling... Sosuke didn't kill Creek. Maybe you don't care if an Ikarian dog goes down for a crime he didn't commit, but how do you feel about the person who did put that hole in Creek's chest toasting to the news of the verdict? Screw this. 9:47 p.m., night of the murders. I got the alarm on my phone. Knew it was Creek because the whistles all have specific frequencies. You gotta set them into your device if you want to listen for him. Creek had nerves like ice. Strong bluffer. Wouldn't press that button unless he absolutely had to. I ran. Was fastest that way on foot. Usually is in the lower wards. I knew where the spare key was. Helped set up the whole damn place. Doors, keys, soundproofing. Stepped inside and had just gotten my phone light out when those two idiot cops came up. Reds and blues, but no siren. Trying to be some kind of movie shit. I thought they were gonna shoot me. Then I heard Chopin getting ready to break the lock, and I knew they were gonna shoot me. Used the spare key on the nearest vault, dipped inside, and prayed they would just head straight upstairs. Lucky for me, they did. You followed after them? At a distance, but yeah. Saw their boots on stairs, their shoulders around corners. They split on the second floor. One went upstairs. He was quiet, except for that squeak on the fourth step. Creek used to joke that was a valuable security feature. They separated on the second floor without any prompting. Other one was stomping around the second floor, so I was able to keep my distance. Always knew exactly where that one was. Then one shouted down. He shouted, saying that everyone was dead. That must have been Chopin, just before Sosuke snuck up on him. I liked Creek. His boys were alright too. But I did not want to join them in Red Hood's company, so I didn't risk sticking around a second longer. I opened that window on the second floor and jumped for the ground. I was willing to hurt my knees, fall on my ass if I had to, but I ended up smacking the dumpster instead. Guy on the second floor shouted after me, "They're in the alley!" I heard windows slide open above me, footsteps on the fire escape, but my knees had stopped shaking and the fog was with me. They never saw me. You're saying you never even set foot on the third floor? Not until I came back hours later as a scientist rep now. Where's the spare key now? Bottom of the bay at the moment. Hell of a throwing arm, as you can see. I ain't gonna help you go snorkel around for it, if that's what you're asking. Well then, the people thank you for your testimony. You've cleared up a number of oddities surrounding this case. Though none of the answers you provided have changed the fundamental facts of what the defendant is accused of. Not quite. She was in and out, counselor. Didn't even set foot upstairs. I know. Not until she came back to secure the scene, right? Out with it, counselor. There's no need for theatrics at the jury or gallery here. I'm still here. I do appreciate the witness being so forthcoming about her first visit to the scene. Now I just need to explain why she started covering up evidence when she returned. What are you talking about? Why go to such effort to hide one small scrap of paper? What is that? More trash? Seriously? It's exactly what it is. Trash. Garbage. Some idiot knocked over a trash can on the second floor. It's a big building. This stuff happens. Still don't want to answer. That's okay. I will. You covered up that scrap of paper because it implicates you as an accomplice. Didn't see that coming. Because that's nonsensical, Your Honor. Counselor, you just got done explaining how Han arrived after the pod was killed and left before Chopin died. Not an accomplice to murder. Just the mafia equivalent of leaking government secrets. Even though the papers were almost entirely illegible, it only took 4 characters for the P-492 plan to blow up in court yesterday. Years of blue blood planning all down the drain, because Creek was reading something he shouldn't have when he died. But if he shouldn't have had it in the first place, one has to wonder where he might have gotten it. Because of that one goddamn watermark. Identical to the one on your own business card. Scientist security? You leaked the relic? Creek never asked nobody for nothing. Dumbass was a giver. Gave money, food, blood, more than any of us. Enough that the weaker ones would have to get stuck. Guy like that came to a two-faced con hostess like me and asked for help. That relic is radioactive. Anyone caught with it. Why would he ask you for it? Old guard knew Creek was charismatic, brave, smart. Everything they feared in a young blood. They also knew Creek made them too much money for them to just off. So the old guard decided to wear them down instead. More jobs than any other crew, more responsibilities. Less downtime, no sleep. Keep them too tired to have time to rebel, then wait for them to screw up, so you can make an example of them when they do. Managers would do the same thing when a host got too full of themselves. Start thinking they were the ones bringing in the money, they were the ones who should keep it. Just put them on the grind. Grind them into of dust. One old bastard that I'm trying to grab that Akaria kid or whatever. At the same time, another expected them to do some kind of arms handoff to a big shot. At least that was a rumor. Well, the point is, Krook knew they had a target on their back already, so they wanted some kind of deterrent. They could have dropped that Reddit into any inbox in town like a tactical nuke if they had to. And maybe that's why they fired their missiles first. Do you think the old guard killed Creep? I don't think it was that pretty boy Hound nursing those broken bones. Did he off the show pawn guy, though? I mean, I'd kill a stuck-up, spoiled prick like that for no motive, so... Did that answer your questions, Counselor? Not the most burning one. When did the scrap of paper arrive on the second floor? Wasn't there when I ran out that window. It was dark and you were panicked. How could you even have noticed? The paper's white. If you had seen it, would you have taken it? You kidding? Yeah, of course I would have taken it. I would have eaten the damn paper to make sure. Why didn't you simply eat the damn paper later when you did see it? Removing an item from an arc-scan building would set off any number of red flags. And the first thing that would happen is they'd wind the clock back to see what it was. That's what I did. Looked back to see how the hell I missed it, but the damn thing was in every pick the arcs had right from the beginning. Knocking over trash to hide it was the best I could do. Lower ward survival tactics. Hide on numbers. If the scrap wasn't on the second floor when you left, but it was in the arcs from the start, that means Reyes' body cam saw it by the second floor windowsill, the one that connected it to the fire escape. Your Honor, I believe we're done with this witness, even though all we've managed to establish is that someone went from the third floor to the second floor without taking the stairwell. Someone circled around. Got all that from one paper? Am I stupid? Just because those papers originated on the third floor? If that scrap was found by the windowsill, someone could have taken the fire escape. Exactly. Could've. Someone could've. But obviously they didn't, because then they would have run right into... Dr. Sato! She's some evidence or DNA or whatever. Maybe even an updated autopsy report if you even care. Should let her in. Your Honor, you're the one overseeing the trial, so I can cry if I want to. Open her up. And kick the flirt out. Hey, Miss Morgan. That Akarian dog didn't kill Creek's pod. No, he didn't. You gonna find out who did? Not your job, huh? Guess I deserve that. Finding Creek's killer is technically not my job either, Han. But if they're brought before me, I can promise that I won't hold anything back. Appreciate the sentiment, and I'm not gonna hold my breath. And I won't tell any of the other young bloods to hold theirs.